Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Prime Time at Curtis Lake Church, or as some of us like to call it, Curtis Lake Prime Time.
People call it that.
I am your host, Josh Parison. Sydnee, please don't interrupt the introduction. And with me tonight is, of course, Sydnee Butler for the first time on Prime Time.
Yay! Welcome, Sydnee.
Hello, Sydnee.
May I speak?
Not yet. I'm not done the introductions yet. And also Sharon Rogers. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Josh.
You spoke prematurely as well, but that's
Sorry.
okay. All right.
Get somebody else.
It's all fair. It's all fair game now. I know.
He's super pushy already. We're 30 seconds in.
Gonna be a fun night, everybody.
This is. I'll be honest. This is a pretty strange team we've assembled for Prime Time. The three of us have had a number of conversations over the years, and we have absolutely no idea what direction this is going to go in tonight. So,
I'm just wondering who has the mute button.
If you're tuning in for the first time, good choice. Good choice on night.
so how you guys doing?
Good. Been a busy day.
Yeah. Why is that?
A lot of work to do.
Oh, like what? What did you do today?
Great. I don't know. I can't.
Ooh, I think I
Whoa.
caught her.
I got the program ready.
Did you?
I did.
Okay.
Nice.
It's in your inbox for tomorrow. Let's see. I worked on some facility stuff, handing it over to Jim. I don't know. Wandered around. Looked
That
busy.
does sound like an awful lot, Sharon. Thank you.
I wandered around. I did not wander one time today, just so you know.
No.
No. Nope. I drove a lot. We had a lot of sports practices. So I drove to football and dropped off one kid, then drove to baseball in Lebanon and dropped off the other kid, and then raced back to get the first kid from football, and then went back to get the other kid from baseball before I forgot him. And then we ran home, and Ryan made himself cereal for dinner, and Brandon had a cheese stick, and now we're here.
Nice.
No wandering.
Nice. Speaking of sports, I made a difference in the life of a teenager today.
Really?
I did.
How so?
Well, I was walking through the hallways down here in the church, and there was a cornhole game set up, and there was a little bit of cornhole action going on. I kind of jumped in there, and I noticed a young lady there just kind of watching. Asked if she wanted to play, and she took the cornhole bag and threw the cornhole bag as if she had never thrown an item ever before in her entire life. And so we worked on form a little bit, and came back a little while later, and like the crowd was cheering her on as she was just throwing bag
crowd
after
was
bag
cheering her
on the
on?
board. Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Wow.
So
Nice.
yeah.
I didn't know there was a form to cornhole. I thought you just I don't know.
That's why we lost. On
Yeah,
Sunday.
that's
Well,
why
she
she
was
lost.
like, yeah. I mean, that was the thing. If you saw what I saw, you know what I mean. But she was basically hucking the cornhole bag, and it was going and hitting the wall on the side or hitting the ceiling.
Oh, it's
It
kind
was
of like
just- there was-
Sharon throwing a frisbee.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. Yes. Why can't you throw a frisbee?
I don't know. It's a mental block.
Like you
of
did
sorts.
sports.
I know, and there have been times when I've been able to throw a frisbee, but
I've never
I
seen any
can't-
of those times, and it's like
No.
I can't even overstate how bad it is.
I
it's
think
true. He
just
can't
so
overstate
weird.
it.
I think my
I own it.
favorite part is how she just stands there after with one leg in the air, hoping it's gonna go where she wants it.
Yeah,
Why do I subject myself to this week after week?
that's a great question, but you do. All right, well, hello everybody out there. If you're on Facebook tonight or on curtislake.online. That's right, Sydnee. Church. Thank you for joining us. We've got the chat features enabled there. So if you have any questions or comments as we're going on, we'll try to kind of keep an eye on those. And nobody ever asks any questions,
I know.
which is strange, right? Like I feel like we're just opening ourselves up to
Can
the
we
world
just-
here.
Can we just force this person to ask a question? Can we just call him out right now and make
no,
him do it?
we're not going to do that. we're not going to do that. This is a friendly show, Sydney.
Yeah, but she's pointing to my husband, so.
Oh. Well, then we're definitely not going. I am not going to put Peter on the spot. I can tell you that much. So we're going to talk about a couple things tonight. This past Sunday, we talked about complacency. That was fun, right?
Sure.
And so we could kind of investigate that a little bit. And then we're on week number 12 of Road Trip to Truth. And the topic for this week was, it was titled something along the line of anxiety and depression. But, really, I think what they were kind of talking about is this idea of hopelessness, right? And so all of the stuff that we've been talking about over the last number of weeks that really speak to the importance of, a person being able to find and live in a relationship with God, right? And like a lot of these modules that we've kind of looked at from week to week are trying to just lessen the barriers that a lot of people feel toward faith, right? I mean, there's people out there that they have this assumption that to believe in the tenets of Christianity is to just kind of throw your brain out the window and just blindly believe in something that doesn't really have any really good substance to it. And so every week, if you guys haven't been watching, if you haven't watched the modules, I encourage you to do that because there's a lot of really good insight in there that might just give you an understanding that there's a reason to have confidence in the Bible as the Word of God, for instance. There's reason to have confidence in the Christian understanding of God, the claims of Jesus. So many of these different subjects, I think, come up in a really, really great way. But ultimately, like, there's a reason for it, right? And that is that we believe that this stuff matters. Like, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's not that the fact of whether or not Jesus Christ, this human being from 2,000 years ago, that he was God or not God. Like, the fact of that is important, but there's ramifications for it too, right? Ultimately, if it's true that Jesus is God, that Jesus died on a cross and miraculously raised himself from the dead, that means something, and there's like what we're going to talk about tonight, I think, is there's hope that we have. Hope in the resurrection of Jesus, and ultimately the hope that means for our lives as well. So how do you guys want to kick this off tonight? You want to talk about complacency, or do you want to talk about hopelessness and anxiety? We've never done this as a democracy before, so this is a little bit of an experiment.
Yeah,
but we're
the curve here.
I mean, I'm feeling kind of complacent right now in this decision-making process, so.
Well, let's start with complacency.
Okay, let's start with complacency. What's wrong with complacency, Sharon?
Doesn't get anything done.
Kind of like today, right?
Kind of like when you just wander.
Listen, I do things, I just can't think of them.
I do tease Sharon. I don't know why, but for some reason, practically every time I come around the corner, she's at her desk on her phone.
Okay, because that's how we communicate. We
That's
communicate with each other through texts. So I'm always talking to one of you.
Yeah. Anyway, so can you just refresh my memory about what we talked about this Sunday in regard to complacency and all that you got out of that?
Well, I think when you were opening up with, just how hungry are you for something? And it's easy to be hungry when you haven't experienced something and you have this goal in front of you. And once you've reached it, then it's harder to get to that same level of do what it takes to get to a place. Sometimes I think it's not just because we've experienced it once and we're okay if I hit that high there, I'm good now for the rest of my life. I don't have to work so hard. I'm fine. Sometimes I think I remember how much I had to work for it. I just don't know if I have that in me. So I'm okay where I am. And that's because it's easy to not stay in motion. It's a law of physics, right? Things at rest tend to stay at rest.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think a few years ago, and we had talked about going to Cedar Point for a period of time. Both my girls love amusement park rides, roller coasters, especially. And so here's one of the big theme parks in the country, and we were really, really excited to go there, and it was great. It really was. It was fun. We went there for a couple of days, and it was a nice drive there. It was a nice time spent there. It was a nice drive back. I feel like ultimately the rides, they didn't disappoint. They were kind of what we had hoped that they would be, but that was it. And although it's not like I wouldn't go back, there's not like this driving, compelling, like I gotta go and I gotta experience that all over again. You know what I mean? It's just not there. Partly because I don't do as well on rides now that I'm an old man compared to how I used to. But yeah, I mean, I think that to me, I mean, I love sports, and so I really get that, and that's part of why I use that example. But it just seems like it's so true, that it's really, really hard for people to put in the necessary or the proportionate amount of work that goes into accomplishing something when the hunger is not there to feed it, right? That's ultimately what it's about. It's like, man, we did this before because we were so hungry for it. In fact, we defied the odds, right? Again, like we talked about the underdog beating the more talented team. And the reason for why that happens is because they wanted it more. And effort actually sometimes trumps talent and ability, right? And so when somebody's kind of been there and, I don't know, takes for granted that it'll just happen again, or that, hey, I did it once before, why do I need to put in the work to do it again? Like there's just like there tends to be this natural part of us, I think, that ultimately leads us to a letdown, in our performance. So,
but sometimes we don't even make it there the first time. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we never achieve our goals because we're afraid. Like there's things that need to happen in our lives, but we're scared to take that next step into it. And so we're just complacent in staying where we're at when there could be just like so much better stuff for us, but we're scared of the unknown. So I think sometimes besides, just getting there and experiencing it once, we don't even get to experience it that one time because we're so scared of the work it's going to take, or we're comfortable in what we're familiar with, and so we don't want to step out of those bounds and try something new. Moving out for the first time is scary, and I think for some kids, like they stay home longer than they need to or should because they're just scared of what it's going to be like on their own. And then they get out there and like, this is great.
Why didn't I do this before?
Yeah, why didn't I go sooner? My mom's not yelling at me to be quiet at 10 o'clock at night. But I think it's just taking that step into the unknown and trusting that whatever is forward is good.
Is that a message for Paige or James or both?
I mean, it will be a message for Paige in 6 months.
Oh. But James any moment.
Yeah, James, anytime now.
Right.
Anytime.
Yeah. So you bring up a good point, and that was one of the things I talked about on Sunday, is that we really do have these opposing forces, I think, at work in us, right? And one of them is the desire to change, right? And so I've talked about this before. I felt for a long time physically that I didn't feel good, and a lot of it, I think it had to do with my diet and with my sleep. And so I lived in that for a long, long time. I mean, a long time. And it wasn't, it's not that I didn't want to keep, experiencing that. It's not that it's not that I loved it. And so there was this, on the one hand, this desire to change, or to see things change. But on the other hand, there was just this opposing force that kind of kept me where I was. Right. And so sometimes I talked about comfort as being this opposing force, the comfort of just staying put, the comfort of, like you just said, this is what I know, right? This is the area where I feel comfortable in, and sometimes that overwhelms even the desire for change, and it keeps us from changing.
Change is hard. And you just, even when you may have experienced something, sometimes the thought of just getting back there is daunting. The work that it was going to take. Sometimes it's just like, yeah, is it really worth it? And you forget, like your mind doesn't really remember things accurately. For instance, those of us who have children, we know that birthing children, in the moment when you're in labor, it's awful and it's hard and it's painful.
And it's gross.
I'm so glad Sydnee's on tonight.
I do remember the gross part, and I can definitely sympathize with the gross part of it. Yes.
But afterwards, you don't really remember the depth of all those things. You just remember this wonderful little baby. So your memory is not exactly accurate. You can't, it's probably why everybody, many moms go, oh, I'll have another baby. No problem.
No problem.
To be fair, the amount of time that's elapsed between the last time you had a baby and now is, maybe different from those who they do remember. There might be some folks out there that
I was a day or two, maybe not even that far away from just having had my first son. I'm like, oh, I could totally do this again.
Yeah?
What a
Yes.
weirdo.
Trooper.
I know. I am a weirdo.
All right.
I don't know. There's a lot of things that are wrong with me, Shayna, but I'm not sure we can define all that here.
Mm-hmm.
Back to the whole change thing, I think another issue with people not liking change is because we have this false sense of being in control.
Yeah.
And so when change is happening, you definitely don't feel that sense of control in that moment. And so I think that's also a factor into complacency and not changing. Is it's like, oh, I don't have all my ducks in a row.
Yeah. So how do we fix it? Like, we talked about it in the context of, our spiritual lives and like community, in terms of community, our church life, right? There's certainly, and I think naturally, some, I think, malaise or just this feeling of complacency that in the best of circumstances, people who are following Jesus are going to experience from time to time, right? They just are. Like we're all gonna veer in and out of this realm of complacency anyway. But boy, how much more is that even exacerbated by the reality of our last year to 18 months, right? When things really kind of slowed down, and so a person who was involved in a ministry stopped being involved in that ministry, like stopped being involved in that area where they were serving other people because, you just weren't doing that anymore, right? I mean, we shut down for 8 weeks completely. Everything was fully remote, and children's ministry was obviously not happening during that time. And even after we opened very, very modestly for months, we have a kid or two that would kind of be there. And so, I think of children's ministry here at Curtis Lake and this area where dozens of people were involved in that. and we still haven't even fully rebounded, to where it kind of looks like that again. So for every one of those people that were involved that aren't anymore in that area, and then just all these other areas, I think you get out of the habit, out of the mode of serving other people. I mean, sure, there's a season for that, but that's not to be forever, right? Like, how do we break out of that complacency? You're doing some crazy volunteer recruitment kind of stuff right now. So
I'm trying.
I'll answer your emails, I swear.
But I mean,
you've had some success with that, right?
We've had a little bit of success.
There's been some exciting kind of progress in that area.
Yeah, we're celebrating, the people that are taking the steps to, reach out and connect are finding some success. And I think it's sometimes people just need to be reminded, like, why we do the things that we do. And the fact that, it's not the Curtis Lake staff that makes ministry happen around here. Yeah, we have a hand in it, but ministry could not happen without all our volunteers, and we could not reach people and make a difference in lives if it weren't for our volunteers, for people who love Jesus and want others to learn to get to know him and love him as well. And it's
especially if we're just wandering around in the hallways
Yeah.
all day.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
I know.
I want your job.
I doubt you do.
You can have it. No, you can't, because I don't want your job.
Yeah. So certainly we'd say, like, people have to, they have to experience just this kind of rekindling, right? This reignition of that spark where, it really does mean something to invest yourself in the kingdom of God, and don't ever belittle or downplay anything that you're doing. I mean, the examples that we're given in scripture about like what it means to serve Jesus they're pretty modest. You're talking about, giving a cup of water to someone who's thirsty, or visiting someone who's sick or in prison, and noticing that somebody needs, the material benefit of clothing, and you know what I mean? Just like meeting those physical needs, like serving one another in what might look like big, amazing, grand things, right down to the very, small, just kind and generous ways in which we serve each other. Like, all those things really, really matter. So we just have to do them.
I think when we lose our sense of purpose, or we stop thinking about what our purpose is, maybe it's not that we lost the sense, like we kind of know, but we're just not acknowledging it and not grabbing a hold of it. When you don't have that sense of purpose, it's pretty easy to stay where you are, because you don't know, you're not looking at where you're going. And like many of the things like we talked about before, like when you get there, or when you start investing in yourself and in others, you start thinking all of a sudden, like, wow, why didn't I do this before? Look at what I've been missing. But to get from here to there, you just have to start with grabbing hold of your sense of purpose again. I think, we all have a purpose. We were all given gifts and talents and treasures and time. And when I found myself in this mode of being very complacent, I remember the sense of what a waste of my time.
I think there's this energy that bursts out of it too. Like when you're complacent and you're just kind of like, your energy's just low. And then you jump back into something that you used to love doing and you forgot. Like you actually forgot how much you enjoyed volunteering. Like, oh yeah, when I serve coffee, I get to say hi to everybody. And oh my gosh, I haven't seen this person in forever. And now I have 2 minutes to chat with them while they, add their cream and sugar. Like we just forget how much we enjoy doing things. And then,
or some of my best friends are people I served with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, game night. You know what I mean? Like just things like that. And I think like your energy level just goes from very low to like, oh yeah, this gave me life. And all of a sudden you have this new energy and this new, like, how can I how can I get on the coffee team every week because I had so much fun today? Or how can I help out in Firefly Hollow because that little baby was so sweet and she came right to me and I would hate for her to have to cry next week if I'm not there. You know, it's just things like that. That's how I got hooked, okay? I became besties with a 2-year-old and I was supposed to serve every other month and I'd connected with this kid. And I was like, I do not want to start over in 4 weeks. Like, I want to keep this relationship going. And so that's actually how I increased my volunteer time, was just because I connected with that one kid and I really, really enjoyed being with them.
Well, at 2 years old, they look different every month that goes by, too.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the time, I changed my hair a lot, so they wouldn't have recognized me either. It would have been a whole problem. So, but yeah, like, it's just like we forget how much we enjoy doing these things when we're just sitting in it. So, yeah, for me, I think like kids are going back to school. It's September. We're all getting back into our schedules. I think Survivor's coming back soon, probably.
It is.
So it's just, it's time to just get back into like, what are those rhythms that I'm missing out on right now? Because we're just kind of sitting in that.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing gets a good kickstart like sitting down in front of the TV and watching Survivor again.
What's the theme song?
Stop making fun of me.
Is there a theme song?
There is, but it's not got words. So
Do you want to hum it?
No, I don't.
I've been on like an 80s show theme song kick recently, so those are good ones back in the day when they actually had lyrics. So, what about
That'd be a fun game.
Facts
to
of
play.
life. You take the good, you take the bad.
that's the one? Yeah,
Take both.
the facts of life. The facts of life. Yeah.
I'll just drink my Capri.
So, what about at home?
What about at home?
What about it?
Wait, what are we talking about?
We're talking about complacency.
Oh.
So what about like even just because it could
Stop
sound
talking about
it
the
could sound
dog
very
hair on my
self-serving.
floor.
What?
My
Stop talking about the dog hair that I'm perfectly complacent with.
Oh, yeah.
Ew,
I could do
I
that.
can't handle that.
Floor.
How come we never eat over Sharon's house?
There's a reason.
I mean, my backyard could use a trim.
So, just because it could sound very self-serving for us to talk about volunteering at the church, right?
Right.
But the reality is we have issues of complacency just in our everyday lives as well, right? And how do we overcome the comfort of staying put so that the desire for change can actually win out and we do it? Do you have any, can you even think of
Can I talk a little bit?
About
Take that in a little. No, about one other family member, but can I take that in a little bit of a different direction?
You may, yes.
So I have another Matthew story. So for those of you who have heard me speak before, I have a son who has autism, and he went through a phase when he was in
Who
junior
hates
high.
me, by the way,
Well-
for no reason.
Well, we'll continue on.
Seems like that emotion is locked in though permanently, with no chance of ever overcoming it. So
You shouldn't talk during bingo.
that's true.
That's it.
That was my fault.
Anyway, so when he was in junior high and all those, puberty, all that stuff was happening, and he was
Got to put my finger over here on the mute button in case this
It
goes.
was Sharon, not Sydney.
all those hormones were raging. Like, he got very aggressive, and he put lots of holes in our walls, lots of holes in the sheetrock. We would patch them, more holes would go in. We finally gave up because it was just, we couldn't keep up. The holes were too big to patch. Finally, we had our really good friend Doug Spalding come over, and he put up some. I say finally, when we thought Matthew was over this, and we lived with it for a while. We patched it. We put wainscoting up so that we wouldn't actually have to patch the holes. We could just cover them, and honestly, within a week, he had actually kicked a hole in the wainscoting, but it was only one, so we were happy. It was in the right direction. But when we were in the middle of living with those holes in the wall, we were complacent. We were perfectly okay with living with it the way it was then, but that took a toll. I mean, it really took a toll on us. It took a toll on me just looking at my house. It just every single day, it was awful. And then when Doug came over and Doug and Peter worked together and they got it all covered up and looking better, I'm like, what a difference. And then, just during COVID, we had, like everybody else, a project, and we repainted the whole house. And I cannot tell you, I still love walking in my house now. It's given me a boost. I know I'm still not cleaning the dog hair as often as I should. However, the walls are still nice. They're clean. And but staying complacent, it's not just about, you're staying here at a certain level. It takes a toll on you. And sometimes we don't really recognize the toll that it takes until we've just moved past it. And so that's my little story on my home life with complacency.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Complacency takes a toll on you. I feel like you should have like a little blurb. You know how like when he talks, like we quote him and stuff?
What?
What? Like every Sunday, you're like, quote me, and you have the little quotes at the bottom.
Oh, yeah. I write those.
But Sharon just made one, and it's great.
All right. Well,
Shayna, can you add that?
I'll see if I can work it into
Oh, she's adding it.
I'll see if I
Complacency takes a toll.
house cookies.
I have some of those. in
Wait,
my
raw
house,
or
too.
baked?
Gross. Baked.
Okay, just making sure.
Actually, no. I probably need to say, for Renee's sake, I hate Toll House cookies because she makes
She makes
really
better
good
too.
chocolate cookies. Yeah,
She does. I do know that.
she does. Cool. All right. Anything else? Sydney, do you have something, just like amazingly inspiring to share like Sharon did?
No, I don't. Complacency at home, is that what we're talking about?
Just complacency, like anything you can think of that.
I think sometimes I just stay extra busy so I don't have to focus on my complacency. So it doesn't really seem like I'm in it to myself. Like I just fool myself into thinking I'm super awesome. So that means I probably have a lot of complacency in my life currently that I'm not addressing. So there's that.
I can identify with that.
Yeah. Right? Like, because if you're busy, clearly you're not complacent.
Do you want us to dig into that a little bit more here?
Yeah.
It's just the three of us here, so.
That's right.
I mean, you can try, but this is a stone wall.
Anybody have any questions out there for Sydney?
Where do you
I
think?
really
Oh, look at
would.
that. It's on the screen there. Complacency takes a toll on you. That is one slow ticker screen there.
It would really make me happy if somebody asked a question and then I got to answer the very first question ever on PrimeTime.
Well,
Please?
Chris Haywood just keeps begging for somebody else to ask a question, apparently.
Oh, Chris, I missed you.
Ask something. Ask something. Anyway. Yeah, we definitely have to work on our like audience participation here.
We need to start having a call-in portion. You talk live to them.
So we did talk about, and I'm just going to throw this out here live
Uh-oh.
so that maybe this will help it happen. But we talked about putting in a
Bless
segment called, question of the week. Remember we were going to put that on the communication
We
card.
did, yes. Maybe I'll put that on this week.
Maybe this Sunday when you come to church on your communication card, there'll be a place for you to just pose a question. And it could be a question about anything.
Right.
Like question for the pastor.
Or Sydney.
Yeah. Or Sydney the next time she's on, which I'm sure will be very, very soon.
But it doesn't
hope so.
it doesn't have to be about like what you're talking about on
No,
Sunday.
it can be
It can be anything in the world,
That's what I mean.
right?
Like you can just ask. It doesn't mean I'm going to answer it.
But see,
But-
that's
but-
why people aren't asking, because you keep saying like you can ask, but I'm not going to answer your question. So you're already setting them up to be declined.
Well, that's just the way it is. If there's 300 questions, I can't answer them all. Right? So
There's not one.
well, not here. I'm talking about Sunday morning.
Come on,
Sydney, follow the conversation here. So if a whole bunch of people ask a question, watch out for the microphone. If they ask a question, we'll just pick the best one. So
All right.
that gives people a reason to ask a good question.
All right. If you put on the communication card to ask a question, I will ask a question. I am committing to
fantastic.
it.
Okay.
Fantastic.
All right. So let's talk about week number 12. Week 12, road trip to truth. in the series that we're kind of looking at. So we're talking about hopelessness, anxiety,
It's so nice to talk about these uplifting topics.
yeah, complacency and
Yeah.
anxiety all in one
Don't
week.
forget
right?
depression.
So, what'd you guys get out of it?
Sydney, take it away.
Well, here's what I got out of it. I left my notes at home because I thought my memory was absolutely amazing, and it's not. But what I remember is it was basically just. So depression typically aligns with feeling hopeless. Like that's basic. I mean, that is the medical way of explaining it oftentimes, just the feeling of hopelessness. And that's how they explained it in this, the lack of hope. And I really liked that because I feel like oftentimes when we are feeling depressed, we kind of hone in on something else and not really focus on what the grander thing is, which is you're hopeless. Like you're not feeling like it's worth it. What is the point in me getting up today? What is the point in me taking a shower? Why should I go to work? Like why? And so I liked how, I feel like oftentimes, like they mentioned in Road Trip to Truth, like David has felt depression. I mean, it's quite obvious when you read Psalms that he was depressed at times, but I think oftentimes, like we glorify biblical characters, if you will, and we don't ever focus on their mental health. So it's just nice to know, like, this is not new. Like, we like to say, like, oh, did you notice, like, lately more and more people are getting depressed, which isn't true. It's just it's more talked about, acknowledged. And so it's just kind of nice to see, like, it's not a new problem, and God has been figuring it out for all along. Like, He's got the answers right there. It's not a new 20th. Are we in the 20th century? Is that still a thing, or are we in the 21st? Where are we?
You're in the 21st century.
It's not a new 21st century problem. Like oftentimes people kind of think it is a new thing. And it's not. It's just talked about more, and I like that. And then the anxiety piece, it was just the purposefulness. I think that needs to be expanded on a little bit. I felt like they focused a lot about somebody not feeling purpose, but anxiety is a lot more than that. Like sometimes it's just like an unexplained fear, or sometimes your body can experience anxiety and your brain doesn't even realize it. So like when you're anxious, there's certain chemicals that are like released, and it can make you nauseous or shaky, or your heart's beating fast. And sometimes you can actually be anxious and have the physical symptoms and not have the mental symptoms too. So I think it's just important to point out, like, that's not always related to not feeling like there's any purpose. That's just your body releasing chemicals in a strange way. So I think, like, I liked the video, and it touched on some really good points of why a person can feel depressed or anxious, but there's just, it's a huge world. There's just so much involved in it. And I appreciated how they brought it back biblically. But yeah, there's just a lot to it. There's a lot in the world of it.
I think sometimes people try to dismiss, sometimes Christians try to dismiss this idea of anxiety and or depression as well, you're not a real Christian, a good Christian. You call yourself a Christian, but you're so anxious and you have depression. Like, it doesn't jive for them. But the Bible clearly says, cast all your fears and and anxieties on Him. Like, okay, so they must exist. Mm-hmm. if I'm told to give them over.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be surprised that we do feel this way from time to time. It's what we do with it.
And I think a small dose of anxiety is okay, because that's your brain telling you, like, you're about to get into a situation that you shouldn't be in, or I mean, like, I can think about when I was a teenager, I got anxious because I was probably in a place I shouldn't have been. And that was right. Like, I should have felt anxious then because that was like my defense mechanism telling me, like, you shouldn't be here. You need to get out of here. So I think, like, there is a healthy dose of anxiety. And obviously there is also some where it's not, you know, you need to seek more help for it too. But yeah, I agree with you, Sharon.
Thanks, Sydney. Josh,
What?
what do you think?
About what?
Anxiety.
I
depression?
don't have a lot of it, so.
I don't either. And I have consciously thought on many occasions how thankful I am that I don't experience much anxiety or depression. There have been times when I've been, a little tense or anxious about something, but in general, I know my attitude is like, it will work itself out no matter, and that doesn't necessarily mean it works itself out in my favor. It just
It's out of your control.
it's out of my control. Worrying is not going to help it.
Right.
My mother suffered from anxiety a lot, especially in her later years, and she'd worry about things she had zero control over, and it made things worse for her, not better. And so I was always very thankful that that isn't something that I have had to deal with very much.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it looks exhausting. And I think there's got to be, for some people, I think a personality, a certain type of personality is probably just less inclined to experience it at the same level and same depth as someone else. But, that comes with other, probably personality defects too. So,
Right.
so I get to probably experience far less anxiousness than other people. But I'm also a much less feeling kind of person too. So,
And we're so much alike, so
yeah.
that's why.
But yeah, I mean, I just like, I have this tendency to not worry. I do like to think that even beyond just personality, which I know plays a part in it, that there's also we talked about this earlier. If I could be so bold, to bring this to this, spiritual level, like there is this thing called assurance that I think, is ultimately a gift that God wants to give every one of us, right? This understanding that even when things are not as we want them to be, when they're less than ideal, or dare I say, even catastrophic, that there's still assurance. I mean, many people know the history behind the song, Blessed Assurance, right? And some of these other hymns that have been written that have been written in the midst of very, very dire circumstances.
It is well with my soul.
It is well with my soul. Yeah. I mean, that one's like,
Look that one up, people. That is a crazy, crazy story behind that.
the story almost doesn't sound true.
It absolutely does not.
Right. But when you do understand what this person was going through and the words that they put down on paper to express, and I wonder, it's like, really, did it feel like it was well with your soul, or was there something just greater than even our emotions, our feelings? Is it this sort of miraculous assurance that we feel that ultimately we are God's, right? We are His, and nothing can remove me or separate me from that. And so, yeah, I think that plays a big part in it. So they did talk a lot about purpose, right, and understanding purpose and purposelessness, and how that ultimately feeds anxiety, or can feed anxiety. And the guest there, what's his name?
Shy?
Yeah.
Is it Shy
yeah.
or Shay?
I can't remember.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway,
one of those.
but the
SHA.
Big old rapper.
yeah.
big old wrapper.
Well, like greatest in the world or something by some critics say.
Well, I'm a critic, and I say you're pretty awesome too.
You've not heard me rap, so we'll go with that then.
Well, we are doing that at the end, though, aren't we?
Rapping? Sure, let's
I thought
do
you
it.
were going to. Yeah. So I don't know why my nose is so itchy.
You have to start with the beatbox, though.
Oh, do I?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. But he mentioned Solomon and Ecclesiastes, right? This book that was written by somebody. As he was talking, it just made me think of Solomon, in this way. We talk about people trying to do all kinds of things to feel fulfillment in their lives. They try so many experiences. They try so many things, tangible and otherwise. And I was thinking about Solomon, and it does not matter like how hard you've tried or to what lengths you've gone to try to experience fulfillment. I mean, this guy, he's got you beat, right? He was the king. He was rich. I mean, there was nothing that would ultimately be withheld from what he wanted. I mean, can you imagine just snapping your fingers and whatever it is that you wanted or whoever it was that you wanted, it happened. And so even with the benefit of that kind of, authority and opportunity, he had come to realize, boy, just none of that stuff is fulfilling. None of that stuff ultimately brings me fulfillment. And so we have to understand, I think we have to discover and we have to understand, and ultimately we have to live out our purpose. And that can go a long way to helping us, I don't know, probably see things very differently, helping our perspective. In regard to like this trying to use other things to bring fulfillment, I was thinking about food. Excuse me. I love salt. And I would never eat salt by itself.
I'm with you. I love
Are
salt.
you with me on that? Okay.
And I would not eat salt by
I'm just
myself.
trying to buy
either.
some time.
Where's your purse? Sharon has salt in her purse.
That's true.
All right, listen, there's a reason
was
for
COVID
that.
salt.
It was COVID salt. So when
No,
they
it
took,
was there before.
no, it was
COVID.
not.
No.
It was not there before
You
COVID.
had salt in your desk drawer.
Okay, well, sometimes I don't want to walk to the kitchen to get the salt. So
She doesn't want to wander anymore.
That's right. We have to have salt. Salt's
We have to have
awesome,
salt.
right?
Salt
You would
is
never eat
awesome.
salt by itself,
never.
right? But what salt does is it enhances, right? It brings out something. So I had somebody tell me one time, it was after a round of golf, and we'd ordered pizza, and this guy was sitting next to me, and I saw him put salt on his pizza. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like putting,
Wow.
to me, pizza would be a pretty salty
Yes.
food, right? This guy's putting salt on his pizza. So I teased him about it. He looks at me, he says, I am going to change your life. What? And he said, put the salt. He grabs my pizza. He puts some salt on. He's like, now eat that. And he was right. It was unbelievable. Like it was absolutely delicious. And it's funny how I make things like, if I make salsa and it doesn't have enough salt in it, it doesn't taste right. It doesn't
Right.
taste good. All the other stuff that's in there, like it doesn't come to life without that salt. And when we try to live apart from our purpose, or when we're trying to fill our lives with things that are in place of the priority of a relationship with God, I mean, it's just like it's like chowing down salt all by itself. It's taking on this thing that all by itself is just, it doesn't fulfill, it doesn't satisfy. And so the priority of the life of a follower of Jesus is to put Jesus first in everything, right? And then all the other stuff will have so much more fulfillment to it. You know, so it's really about finding and discovering, hey, this is what I was designed for. This is what I was created for. I was created for the purpose of having a relationship with God. Like, that's my primary reason for being, is that God wants for me to experience him. He wants me to experience a relationship with him. And
So is Jesus the salt or the salsa? Or it doesn't
you
matter?
do with that whatever you want, Sydney. That's up to you.
I'm just-
Some people don't like salsa, so they're not going to like that analogy anyway. But same goes for guacamole, interestingly enough. Not enough salt in guacamole. It doesn't
That's
taste
true.
good.
Doesn't taste.
Just doesn't taste good. So,
Sometimes it just doesn't taste.
right. Yeah.
That's how Paige's guacamole recipe. Are you guys ready? It's life changing. She mushes an avocado and then just puts salt on it. And she's like, I'm done. That's my guac.
Sounds terrible.
She eats it.
Yeah.
It cost me like 50 cents, so whatever.
So, anyway, that's all I got for tonight. How about you guys?
That's all I have. You have anything?
No. I'm trying to think of an avocado joke and one isn't coming right now.
But you know what is coming?
What?
Trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat is coming. That's exciting, right?
It's very exciting.
Is that supposed to be a segue?
It
Well,
sounds like it.
Well, I think it's an opportunity for people to stop waiting for something and, you know, jump in. It's a great place to jump in and get back into life, the regular life of our church, and reaching out into our community. You know, our community is starved for connection. We saw that at Summer Splash. You know, it was a great event. For those who went to baptism at the lake, just the community, people communing together, getting together, and having fun. And these are all events that are outside, so they're relatively safe according to the guidelines. And it's just I think it's something exciting to look forward to, and maybe it's the push that people need to just jump back into things.
Yeah. I mean,
are we asking for people to do anything yet?
Well, this Sunday we'll talk about, hey, trunk or treat's coming. Candy's been on the shelf for a month now, so let's.
Oh, it has?
it was that
You
one
have
in, like,
not.
July.
You have not seen the candy out.
I am I am pretty tunnel vision focused.
Oh
when
my
I go
It's
goodness.
on every
to the
single
store.
end cap in the store.
I don't see it.
You don't go to Walmart either, do you?
I do. I have gone to Walmart, and
Wow.
I know exactly what I'm getting. So, which is enough that I can carry in my hands without a
bag?
without a single-use bag. So that's how I do my shopping now. What can I fit?
Yeah,
I'll take an armload of stuff, please.
Sometimes I'm like, come on, boys, we're going shopping.
That's right. Yeah,
I need your arms.
they are your bags, right?
Yeah. I do have to say, like, shopping, like impulse shopping is really hard now, because it's like, do I go in the store thinking I'm going to like buy tons of stuff and bring like all of my reusable bags, so like 8 of them? And then you walk out because you saw nothing you liked, and then you have 8 bags and you look kind of stupid because they're still empty. Or do I take one bag in, but then I see all kinds of really great deals, so how do I carry it out? Like, it's really hard now. Like,
You can take it out in the cart, unbagged.
But it
just-
feels like I'm stealing.
Oh.
Like, I can't do it. Like, I got my receipt.
I used to be a
I
BJ's
got
member, so I'm
this.
kind of used to that.
Wait,
Like,
at
you
BJ's
just-
you don't get a bag?
No, you never got bags
No.
at BJ's.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
I'm
just
not
load it
cool
up the
enough to
cart.
be a BJ's member, so I wouldn't know.
Well, there's not one nearby. I mean, there is now where you work, but
There's one near where I work.
yeah, right?
Yeah. I feel like this podcast just got real boring. So I think we're going to wrap it up if that's okay
We're
with
tired.
the two of you.
Listen, I'm tired. I wandered all day, okay?
That's all right. It's almost time. So anyway, well, thanks for being
Wait,
here
do we
tonight.
have a question?
We have no questions.
No questions. All right. stop trying to delay the inevitable, Sydney.
I
We're
really
getting
just
done.
want a question.
We've tried to ask you questions.
I wanted them to ask me questions, not you.
Oh, well, they didn't. So anyway, thank you. Sharon, thank you. Sydney, for being here tonight.
I was said with like
Shayna.
a question.
I know it was inflection.
Thank
of the
you,
voice.
Shayna.
Thank you, Shayna, for producing, and thanks to all of you who are out there listening now and in the future. We'll see you again next week on Curtis Lake Primetime. Have a good week.